You are listening to the Coach Sam Show. Sam is spelled 5 a.m. No, this is not just about getting up at 5 a.m. This is a show for leaders, show for husbands. This is a show for dads. This is a show, most importantly, for followers of Jesus. There is a weight in leadership, and at times it can be thankless. Sometimes we feel like we are all alone in it. My hope for this show is that men could watch this show and be encouraged and be stirred up to re-engage in all that they have been called to do with passion. The temptation is when we feel weight, we get overwhelmed. You're going to hear from great men. You're not going to hear from perfect men. You're going to hear from people who, like you, are trying to figure it out. I believe the Lord is calling men to come back to being true leaders. I think there's a lot of confusion on what this means. What role does a husband play? What role does a father play? As followers of Jesus, how should we lead our businesses? We're going to look at the way Jesus himself modeled leadership. The king that currently sits on the throne came down and finished his earthly life not on the throne, but with a crown of thorns. Let's talk through the joy that is the crown of thorns in leadership. Now, today's guest is Deane Cheatham. He is one of the strongest men I know. He is strong physically, mentally, and spiritually. He's also one of the funniest people that I know. He's a great storyteller. He has been a role model for me and a second dad to me. He has shown us all what it looks like to stand firm, to lead with humility in the midst of life's biggest trials. He is a part of the 4 great American families here in Mechanicsville, Virginia, which I'm sure you're going to hear about.
Yeah.
And I can go on and on about you, but Deane, welcome to the Coach Sam Show.
Thank you, Sam. What an intro. I've got a lot to live up to today.
Yeah, big expectations. But again, this is just a conversation, and we'll dive right into it. All right, tell me about your story. I know you from when I was born, but I don't know like your story growing up,
Right.
what it was like for you, what your dad was like. Dive into that for me.
Yeah, I grew up here in the Richmond area, over near University of Richmond. Lived in the same house pretty much my whole life, and only child. So your dad and Mike and Rodney give me grief about that, and then some evidence of that comes up from time to time.
Like what?
Like at least once an hour.
Once an hour? Yeah.
It's pretty much everything's about me.
Yeah, get it.
But anyway, so went to collegiate school, K through 12, and played sports. Really, that was my thing. I wasn't really a go-getter in the classroom. I always, if something really interested me academically, which was very few things, but I really love playing sports. Yeah. And football and lacrosse were really my passions. Wound up going to Hampton-Sydney. I don't really know. I tell people when I went up there and visited, there were a lot of dogs on campus, and I always liked dogs. So it was perfect.
Perfect fit.
Yeah. Good way to choose a college, and it turned out to be the greatest decision of my life. And so played football and lacrosse there, had a few injuries, knee problems there, and wound up working there for 7 years after I graduated.
Oh, nice.
I had no idea what I was going to do. Mike Chenault and I were fraternity brothers and played football, and we had talked about doing something together. And one day I went into the post office, and there was a thing on the bulletin board said they're hiring in the admissions office. I said, well, that might be pretty good for me to do that. Go around the country, talk about Hampton-Sydney. That 1 year job turned into 7 years, and got married during that time. Cindy, my high school sweetheart, we got married, I guess in 1989, and then little Deane was born. Caroline was born while I was working at Hampton-Sydney, and one day I was sitting at what's now Pebble Creek subdivision.
Nice.
We're goose hunting. Mike and I were goose hunting, and he's like, there's nothing going on. We're like just chilling, and he's like, why don't you come sell real estate with me? Like, sounds good.
Yeah, I'm in.
So
simple as that.
That was like 31 years ago.
And you make a ton of money immediately in real estate, right? Isn't that how it works?
Not exactly.
Not exactly.
Not
okay.
exactly. But yeah, I'm on this quest for Hampton-Sydney, right? I mean, I bleed garnet and gray.
Yeah.
And I'm up there doing my thing and loving it, whatever. And then I just started thinking, Cindy and these children, and they're, she's a good sport and she's doing it, but I just felt like maybe there was more for our family, not just in the resource area, but as far as maybe getting back here and being closer to the people that we really love and want to be around. And so that's what we did, and it turned out to be a great thing. And
gosh, it's awesome.
Although I'm still very active with Hampton-Sydney, and I was up there this weekend. But So, and then, here we are. And then you were born
Yeah.
somewhere along the way.
The biggest moment in your life.
I was one of them.
Yeah. It was one of the biggest moments. Yeah.
And, so it's been great. The real estate business has been wonderful, and being able to work with my 3 best friends in the world, brothers,
that's crazy.
And be able to do it for so long. I'm sure we'll talk about that.
Yeah, no doubt. We definitely will.
So
tell me about your dad. Like, what was your dad like? I don't know him super well. Tell me what he was like growing up. Tell me all.
So my dad, when I was younger, he traveled all the time. He was in the tobacco business, right?
Okay.
So he's an engineer.
Okay.
And what he did was design layouts for factories that process tobacco. And he also designed machinery for that. And so he would have to travel and go see all these different factories and get them straight and do different things and put in the different machines on the assembly or on the factory line. And so he was gone a lot. And yet he always, I don't think there was a game, unless it was absolutely impossible for him to get there. I don't think he ever missed a game that I played in. And he was also very vocal, as he was when you played, and Deane and Clayton were playing in Carolina. He was, he's very different than me. He was an engineer, so he's very analytical, where I don't really have an analytical bone in my body. He had very good handwriting. I have very poor handwriting. But he was great. And then, as I got into being a teenager, my mother was an alcoholic. Closet alcoholic, and it was bad, and so he would be gone. Yeah, and so a lot of times I would come home from school, and I remember one time I'm driving up the hill, I had to slam on the brakes because my mom is in the road. She's out in the road. I guess she was going to get the mail and passed out or something. So a lot of that burden was on me, because he had to do what he had to do, and. So that was a challenge, really. I guess my first challenge as a kid.
How old were you when you remember that stuff going on?
14. And then when I was 15, I remember laying on the couch on a Saturday, and my dad came in the house and said that my mother had been in a car accident. And we went to Henrico Doctors Hospital, and they told us she was dead. And she wasn't dead, and she wasn't there, but she was in a bad way and was at St. Mary's, and went to St. Mary's, and she was never the same after that. And, she healed up to a certain degree, but then got back to drinking. And then she died when Cindy was pregnant with little Deane.
Wow. So in the midst of all that, you're 14, 15 years old.
Yeah.
Did you have any friend, was your dad, you were able to lean on him? Who were you able to lean on in that? Or did you kind of just feel like you were solo? I can't imagine what that would have been like if I just felt like I was solo.
Yeah, it was a lot of solo. It wasn't like my dad just threw it all on me, but it was.
But he's working too.
When he's there, he was on it, and he dealt with it, but he wasn't there a lot, and I had to deal with it.
Yeah.
And that I guess you grow up a little bit faster in that situation. So
when did you meet Mike Rodney?
So I met Mike the first day of college. We got up there to play football, and here we come, and I guess they paired us up alphabetically. So Cheatham, Chenault, there we go. Nice. And so we lived in the White House dorms and hung around, met a bunch of other not house kids, and but we became pretty good friends right off the bat, and we wound up joining the same fraternity, and we took a couple classes together.
I can't imagine what that was like.
The blind leading the blind. Yeah. And one particular biology 102. And we actually became lab partners. That's a pretty funny story.
Nice.
Everybody we're in the lab, and all these guys. This is second semester biology, and I convinced Mike that it was going to be easier because it was not microbiology, but it was macro. So you could actually see it, so then we could probably understand it better. Right. And all these dudes are science majors except us. And so they're like, all right, well, go ahead and pick a lab partner. So I'm running over to this guy that looks really smart, by the time I got there, he'd linked up with some other smart dude. And then I turn around and so Dr. Shear's like, all right, if you don't have a lab partner, raise your hand. And I raised my hand, and then on the other side of the lab, Mike's raising his hand. And then it's funny, the entire class busts out laughing, knowing that Mike and I have to be lab partners.
So how did y'all get anything done? Like, would y'all have any big projects?
The best thing that happened then was that was the first time I hurt my knee, and this is for me. And I don't know what happened to Mike, but the professor, we had to do some kind of nature walk thing.
Yeah.
And the professor told me I didn't need to do it, and I told him, of course I can do it. So I walked 5 miles on crutches through some kind of trail in the woods,
Yeah.
and he thought that was so hardy that he gave me a A- or something.
Yeah, you're good. You're tough enough.
Yeah,
might not be good at macrobio, but you're pretty.
I think I told him, I said, I'm into this, Dr. Shear. I mean, I have a passion for
that. Love it so much.
Yeah, and when actually it was just I felt like he was challenging me,
my
manhood, that I couldn't navigate the woods on these crutches.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
So anyway, wrong. So we both graduated, and then then I went to working at the school, and then just one day we got back together.
How important? So growing up as an only child, going through tough situations, how important was that for you once you got to college to actually have brothers to run alongside? What was that like?
I remember when I was a little boy, my mom said one time, she goes, "You don't have any brothers or sisters." And both my parents were only children, so I don't have any cousins either.
Wow.
I mean, I got nothing. So I remember my mom saying, "You better develop a skill of making friends."
Yeah.
And I don't know how I did that, but I feel like that's one of the things I'm most proud of is I have, I've got great friends.
Yeah.
And, so that was everything to me. I mean, I always had a group. I mean, I had a good group of high school friends, and some of us are still, this guy, C.R. Langhorne. I don't know if you ever met C.R. So, yeah, C.R. because he dated his son dated your sister.
That's exactly right. Shout out Madison.
Shout out Madison and Chase.
We love you, Lane.
Goodness, but that's right. That's right. But anyway, and then, once I knew Rodney just because he was Mike's kid brother.
Yeah.
And I didn't really meet your dad, Todd, until I met him maybe, but I knew who he was playing football because he played at Macon. No shout out to Macon. So, I mean, we knew each other, but then once we got going in the real estate business, then it really kicked. And we just, it's been, a joy and sometimes a necessity, unfortunately, to have that tight circle of friends.
Yeah. There's a scripture that says a friend is for all times, but a brother is born for adversity.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's just talking about blood brothers, but the people that you have that tight knit relationship with. Yeah. And then when you go through stuff together, I mean, you need them through that trial. You need those friends. So I can't imagine. It just seems like God's provision that he would give you Mike, my dad, Rodney. Yeah. I mean, the family.
And there's others. I mean,
correct.
I feel like, I don't know how many the world record from the most siblings there it would be, but I feel like I've exceeded that with the brothers and sisters that I have in my life. Yeah. I really do.
Yeah. Awesome.
It's more than what would be natural blood siblings.
Was there ever a moment, and maybe this is a tough question, when you realize, wow, I am really fortunate to have these families? Like when you saw all of our kids, like all of the kids growing up together, and we were all close. We'd go on vacation together. Like, what was that like for you?
I think that was really it. I knew the benefit business-wise. I knew the benefit socially because before y'all were born, believe it or not, we did fun stuff.
Y'all did?
Yeah, we actually did.
I thought
but that we people that are watching may not know what our families get together on December 23rd every year at our house.
Yep.
And you've been doing that since you were an infant.
Yep.
And when one time I remember just sort of turning around and just seeing that. And it was like, those are sometimes those moments in life where you're like, wow, look at what we've got.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, when you were there, when we got the news about little Deane, and you remember I asked you to pray for us. That was another moment when you realize, thank God. And that wasn't everybody, but that was certainly your generation.
Yeah.
just about everybody was in that Airbnb down in Florida when we got the news. And you realize, thank God for the support. I don't know how I would have gotten through that first day without it.
Yeah.
And then Mike came and gave me a shower when I was he didn't give me a shower. He came and gave me a hug when I was nude in the shower after that. So yeah, maybe that helped me get through it too.
Yeah. Gosh, nothing like Mike hugging you.
Yeah. Gosh. Anyway, so yeah, you can't put too much value on the friendships that you make, even if you got a bunch of brothers and sisters. I mean, you can't. Those other people in life that you're going to bond with are going to be valuable to you.
Yeah. Gosh, it is unbelievable to think through our families. And like, I took it for granted growing up. Yeah. I just thought that's how everybody was. No, and then when you get into, I think it kind of hit me when I got into coaching, you see different people's upbringing. I think I operated kind of in tunnel vision, like, oh, this must be what everybody has. Everybody has their 3 to 4 families that they hang out with. That's just not true.
And that's life, Sam. I mean, that's you can't help but take things for granted. You can't be ashamed of the fact that you had that, and maybe somebody doesn't. But you got to understand at some point that everybody does not have that, and you got to try to help the people that need a hand, because they might not have anybody that's there to pull them up. And then you got to realize too that just look around and be thankful for what you have. And like you said, God put those people in your life for a reason.
And it gives you something to like strive for, like with your family. It's like, I want that for our family.
Yeah.
Like with our friends growing up. I mean, we have 4 families in our little like house church group that we have right now. And there are 8 boys under 6 years old right now. It's incredible. But you just think, even then in our home, like on Tuesday nights, we just all meet together and pray together, whatever it looks like. And just even seeing those 8 kids, I just think back to growing up.
That's it.
You know what I mean? With all those guys getting, sometimes I got to be the butt of the joke, being the younger one in there. And then Clayton got a little bit further, and then even Jack Chenault would get it further. But you grow up with these brothers that teach you what it looks like to be competitive, to be tough, and just have fun together. But
and you're fortunate that none of those were total like losers or dirtbags or whatever else, because you had great role models.
1,000%.
And not in every category, but if you could draw it up on the chalkboard, you'd have to say, gee, I don't know if I could do it much better. These guys
1,000%.
helped me, and it was fun from our perspective to watch that happen, and to watch the progression of just people of young men and women that had their good head on their shoulders.
No doubt. That's awesome. That's so cool.
Most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time. So let's talk through this again. Like what I said in the intro, you're a person that has been one of the best leaders in the midst of trial. The best leaders. And you hit on it just a little bit ago. But just for people that don't know, one of my good friends, his son passed away January 7th, a couple of years ago. I was there when Lil Deane passed away. I was there when Big Deane got the news. So he has that. And then we've been battling through that and seeing a bunch of stuff through that whole situation. Yeah. And on top of that, you get the cancer diagnosis, not to mention your knee things that we talked about a little bit before, but you've had trial after trial after trial. But what I've seen is your family get closer. What I've seen is you stand tall. It seems like you've had this rejuvenation in your faith and your walk with Jesus. And you have what's been so cool to me, you haven't just become callous. You allow yourself to feel these things and you bring people in. And anyway, how has that happened for you? What has it been? Your friends? What has held you stable, if you even want to use that word, but what has held you firm in the midst of all of that?
That's a good question. I mean, it's, I wouldn't wish any of this on anyone. I've always tried to look at things and find something good in everything that happens. I use the word, I didn't initially use this word, but one time during the message at church, Hannah used the word shattered, talking about maybe like at the crucifixion, like Jesus being shattered, and you hear that word around, you break glass, it shatters. When we lost Deane, I was shattered. And to me, what that means is there's nothing.
Yeah.
But there is something. Because even though he was gone, I'm still here. Caroline's here. Clayton's here. Cindy's here. You're here. Mike, Todd, Rodney, everybody's here. And so, you've got to go on, and you've got to, what can we do to keep moving?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's keeping my chin up, even though I'm emotional about it. And I don't ever not want to be emotional about it. But you just keep your chin up, and you know that people are looking at you. And you know that I always realize that there's somebody out there that's got it worse. Somebody's lost 2 kids in a car crash. Some people lost 3, and some people have, some cancer where they can't speak, they can't walk, they can't do anything. So I'm fortunate in a lot of ways, even though we've faced some things that no one would ever want to face.
Yeah.
But, sometimes when you find yourself at the bottom, you hear this about people that are addicts and whatever else. When you find yourself at the bottom, that's when you hear God voice even greater.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to me. I mean, I've got a lot of work as a Christian that needs to be done. But I grew up going to church. I was in the church choir. I did all that, and it never really resonated. I mean, I knew the stuff, but I didn't really.
Yeah.
I didn't feel it in my heart, probably like I should and like I do now, because I didn't have to.
Yeah.
And so maybe I was forced into this a little bit by being shattered.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, long story short, I think that if some of this stuff hadn't have happened, I wouldn't be walking in the same shoes that I am now with God to a certain degree. Again, I got a long way to go.
No doubt.
But that's been one of the positive things that's happened to me during this whole thing. And I don't know how I could have done it without it. And I don't know how I could have done it back to the whole thing with the friends. I could not have done it without the support. And then the power of prayer. You realize everybody I meet, like, we're praying for you. And sometimes that's tongue in cheek, but there are a lot of people that are praying for me. You put together a thing where, there was a prayer group that was happening, most every afternoon. And then we had a meeting. I mean, it's been unbelievable. And I can feel that.
Yeah.
It's weird, but I can feel it.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you're supposed to feel when you have cancer.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like I thought I would feel if I had cancer.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel good.
Yeah.
I feel good. I mean, here I am. So let's go.
Yeah. And scans have been clear up until this. After they did the surgery, then there was radiation.
Yeah.
But scans have been clear. The thing with this cancer is that it could come back.
Yeah.
So they say, right?
Well, and let's not discount. We got to give a shout out to my prostate cancer too.
Yeah.
They had that first. I don't know if you even know that. Yeah. So that was the first challenge. That happened whatever year that everybody got married. So that was like before that. So, and that's good too. But that was the first medical. I mean, I always had the knee stuff, but I can deal with that.
Yeah.
But the
big time medical
that was
stuff.
Yeah. I remember when I got diagnosed with that, I called Dr. Mumford. I'm like, is this like a dying thing, or is this like a uncomfortable thing?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, we'll have to see.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's just
What is that like when you hear those words? Like, what do you think? I know that it's harder with the call about little Deane. I fully understand that. That is the worst.
Yeah, that's the worst.
What is the call when it's for you? Are you immediately thinking about Cindy, Clay? Like, what are you thinking about when you get that news?
Well, let's go. Like, the difference as a dad, because that's sort of what we're talking about here. So when we got the news about Deane, all I wanted to do was fix it.
Yeah.
Because that's your job as a dad, is to make it right. Fix everything. If your kid's got a problem, you just figure out a way to get it straight. Marriage a problem, you guys you figure it out. So all I did for the first part of that was just rack my brain on how to fix it. You can't fix it. You can't do it. So you got to look into yourself, and how do you fix your mindset to where you're not focused on that, and you're focusing on helping everybody else deal with it the best they can and lead, and that was one of the toughest things I've ever had to deal with. Because again, my whole life, that's what I've done. I just fix stuff. That's what real estate is. You just, something goes wrong, you got to fix it. You got to help people through it. Can't fix that. With the cancer stuff, when you get it, you're just blown away, because that's just not natural to have something. I mean, if you hurt your knee, we can fix that. I can rehab that, whatever else. I don't know much about prostate cancer. I don't know much about glioblastoma. Still don't know much about it, but I know that I can't do a whole lot about it.
Yeah.
So you trust in the medical science. You know that you've got support, and you know that you've got friendships, and you know that you got God there, and you hope that's going to be enough to push you through it. But you think, what can happen if I'm gone?
Yeah.
And I guess selfishly, I'm like, I don't want to miss out on all the cool stuff that's coming down the pike.
Yeah.
With the prostate thing, I mean, I got 2 kids that are getting ready to walk down the aisle and begin their lives.
Yeah.
I didn't want to miss that, but I really didn't want to miss the next chapters.
Yeah.
And so, and then, with my marriage, I'm like, gosh, I've been with Cindy since I was 16.
Yeah.
How am I going to go on? How is she going to go on?
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I can't die.
Yeah.
And so, I'm just going to fight. And every day, my mantra now is, in Alcoholics Anonymous, I think they have 1 day at a time. Mine's 2 days at a time. And I feel like if I can wake up today, like this morning, when I woke up, I'm like, you know what? I'm not dying today.
Yeah.
And I know if I can make it through today, I'm strong enough to fight through tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I just got to do that, like, I don't know how many thousand times, and then I'm good.
Yeah.
So,
gosh,
so that's really it. I mean, and that's the way I honestly said that today when I woke up. I'm like, today's not the day.
You said this a little bit ago, but you said that without the trials, you might not be walking in the shoes that you're walking today. You might not be walking closely with Jesus. And when I say that, I don't mean perfection. I mean, you are aware of him, you're talking with him, you're praying, you're in community around people that follow him. Because none of us are perfect. That's the whole point of the cross.
Yeah,
right?
sure. I get that.
He brings us in. But people have asked me through the whole situation, well, why is this happening? I'm like, God,
you can't focus there. That's the thing that when you go through all this stuff, then all of a sudden you find there's a community of other people.
Yeah.
When Deane died, then people reached out.
Yeah.
People that had lost their children reached out, because it's healing to them, and it was healing to me and helpful to me for them to share their experience and realize that they're still here on earth and they're still doing good things. And I can do that too.
No doubt.
People with cancer, same thing. And I've tried to reach out and help like I can. So I don't really know where we were going with this, but I feel like you can't know it's about the why. If you spend your time focusing on why, it's going to kill you.
Yeah.
The
why me?
Or why anything?
Yeah.
Why, God, did you take my son?
Yeah.
I'm not at peace with it. But I'm at peace with not asking that question.
Mm.
That answer will come to me when God's ready to give me that answer.
Yeah.
We'll get it.
Yeah.
Why me on the cancer? Who knows?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, but it's here.
Yeah.
And so let's deal with it. If you focus on the why, it's not, what good is that going to? Well, let's just say, oh, you know what?
Yeah.
You sniffed some kind of poisonous substance when you were 9, and that eventually became glioblastoma.
Yeah.
Big deal. I got it. Let's deal with it.
Yeah.
And I think just watching other people, those that dwell on the why,
Yeah.
are slowly dying.
Yeah.
Gosh. I'm not doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's unbelievable. That is the old like cliche victor over victim, but like it's not the why me, it's here now. How do I lead in the midst of this? How do I make the most out of it? I mean, you and Cindy are going on trips. Seems like you guys are enjoying each other. There's not one regret.
More than ever.
Not one regret.
Here's the crazy thing, Sam. I said this to somebody the other day, and they looked at me like I was nuts. But I'm like, in some ways, the brain cancer has been a blessing.
Yeah.
One, I feel good, so it's not like it's bringing me down too much. And secondly, these treatments we go to in Germany, we've piggybacked a fun experience with every single one. So I've been to Europe 5 times. I mean, how many people have been to Europe 5 times? Awesome. I've been 5 times in the last 7 months. Right? And we've been to Switzerland, and we've been to Austria, and we've been to Spain. We're getting ready to go to Ireland with your parents.
Yeah.
And you know what? And it's something that I would have never done.
Yeah.
And so for that, I'm thankful.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have figured out a way to do it without having this stuff going on in my brain.
Yeah, 100%.
But anyway, that ain't up to me.
It's like it says in Scripture, he works all things together for the good. It doesn't mean he caused all things, right? Like there's things that we just can't explain. And there's still a free will aspect to this whole, there's things that we can't explain. They're just bad, right?
Yeah.
But it does mean that he can work everything together and bring a light out of everything.
Right.
And you seem to be the extreme example of that, of someone who's saying, I'm going to stand firm. I'm not going to dwell in the why or the why me or why did this happen. I'm going to stand firm and I'm going to make the most out of every situation. That blesses so many people. That encourages so many people. Your strength in the midst, whether you feel it or not, your strength in the midst of that encourages so many people around you. So it's not even a question, but thank you.
Well, yeah, thank you. And I mean, I don't know any other way to do it. That's the only way I know.
What does talk me through specifically like relationship with Jesus through all of this stuff? I know you hit on it a little bit. You guys have been coming to church more, like all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like what does that look like?
Brandon and Hannah have been great from the beginning. Ever since we met them. We met them with the weddings. They were, maybe I knew them before, but really when because he officiated both of the Caroline and Daniel and Savannah and Clayton's weddings. So we got to be closer then. And then soon thereafter, that's when we lost Deane, and they helped us with that immensely. So going to church, obviously, and re-engaging with that was a big part of it, because you just the further away you get from hearing a message, the more you don't live the life. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of values to church, but it's a reminder.
Correct.
It's a little bit of accountability on maybe I need to get my thinking right.
Yeah.
And so that's been great. And I'm, like I said, I've got a long way to go, but I think that it's helped me understand that I'm not in control.
Yeah.
It's helped me understand that there is somewhere, somehow, all this is going to make sense.
Yeah.
And that I can, with God's help and the help of the prayers that are coming from other people, which I guess that turns into God's help, I can do this.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that is too great for me to overcome. And if it gets to the point where I'm out, well, then that's another part of God's plan.
Yeah.
And I can deal with that.
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah. You might not attribute this to you, But seeing you stand firm in the midst of it seems like it's also helped your family come and join in that. I think if we were to go through similar things, seeing my dad stand firm in the midst of that would absolutely give strength to my brother and myself.
Yeah.
Seeing Clayton, seeing Caroline, seeing Daniel, seeing your wife just come a part of that. The coolest thing to me, I saw this actually with one of our friends who had a miscarriage as well, and it's a devastating situation, right? In the midst of trial, worshiping God, there's something just spiritually profound about in the midst of the trial, I'm still going to thank God for what he's given me in the midst of that. And seeing you guys do that, seeing people in these situations, it is unbelievable. And it can only be attributed to God. It can only be attributed. That is God's presence on Deane's life, right? So anyway, again, thank you. You are an inspiration to me, to a ton of different people. I know I've told you that before, but you are.
Well, thank you. You're an inspiration to me too. And you always have been.
Yeah.
And that's part of the joy of being a dad and being in our group, is just to watch what you've been able to do.
Yeah.
And to hear, I forget somebody, one of the coaches at Hampton Sydney this weekend when I was up there, was talking about a story. He watched you at some kind of camp, and then they were at some other place, and the coach was like, he's just too small. And this guy's like, he said, "Are you out of your mind?" And he goes, "It may have been the dumbest decision, maybe the stupidest thing I ever said as a coach, because whoever he was talking to was like a respected Division I football coach, and this is an aspiring young assistant kind of guy." And he's like, "Are you out of your mind?" And the guy looked at him like, I can't believe this kid said this to me. Anyway, that was all about you. But you never know where you find inspiration in life. And I find it from a lot of different people. Yeah. And so I'm glad to be, if people are inspired by things that I'm doing, then that's great. Yeah. And I'm proud of that.
I'm always curious about this. I wanted to get your perspective on this. Eventually I'll ask Mike about it, Rodney, my dad. Right. You guys are all business partners. Yeah. And best friends.
Yeah.
How on earth does that work?
I don't know. And I'm thankful for that, because it doesn't work. I mean, you don't go out and try to find examples of that.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
For 30 plus years. And, you watch these TV programs, and, it's all great. And then all of a sudden it's not. Yeah. And I guess, one of the things that we've been good at is just getting over stuff. Like, Mike is great at that. Mike, and I'm pretty good at that too. Like, I remember one time Mike might have had a couple drinks or something, and we started wrestling around the room at the fraternity house, and it's like Mike's getting ready to throw me out the window of the fraternity house, the second floor window of the fraternity house.
Nice.
And then, I think he came and got in bed with me or something. I don't know, it was something stupid. But he came and gave me a big hug or something later that night or something, and it was over, And in a business situation and with friendships, you have to be able to, things are going to come up. Yeah. And there's going to be challenges, and there's going to be difference of opinion, but you're still friends. I mean, the bond is there. Yeah. And it's solid enough to where no matter what happens, I think we're able to just get through it. Yeah. And it, not like big stuff comes up all the time, but we've had some challenges. Yeah. And you just know that it's there. And maybe the other thing is we got too much to throw away. Yeah. Because, what are we going to do on December 3rd? Like, just not invite your family. 23rd. Just not have your family come over there. Right. I mean, are we going to? Yes. Are we going to see you and Madison and Benjamin crying at the doorstep because y'all can't come this year? So maybe we're going to work through things. Yeah. I'm serious. Maybe we're going to work through things a little bit more because there's more at stake.
100%. Like you get so invested. It is harder to not forgive than it is to forgive.
Sure.
Right? Like you have to find a way through it because there's too much at stake.
Yeah. I don't want it any other way.
Right.
And I'm willing to work hard to keep it the way it is.
Yeah.
And so, but it's fun to know that you're going to work and you can trust the people that you're working with. I mean, with everything, you can trust them with everything. And then that they're having fun and supporting you, and it's a good thing. And you know, what we have done is we've sold a lot of houses and, you know, done all sorts of good real estate stuff, but we've changed people's lives. We've helped them,
100%.
and they've changed ours too.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, there's, I don't know if it's 1,000 maybe that have come through that, you know, but certainly hundreds have, you know, financially, emotionally, everything, they've become better people and put themselves in better situations, and we've helped with that. And that I love that.
Yeah. It seems like you hit on this, but you get so far in, it's harder to pull it back. You got to find a way to forgive. You got to find a way to move on.
Yeah.
It seems like there's a similar thing in marriage too. Like you build so much together.
Oh, yeah.
You got no way out. Like I think it's so funny when you stand at the altar, you give your vows, which is, if you think about it, is really kind of crazy. You're saying, hey, till death do us part, right? Like I'm in it till one of us dies, right? Like you don't have to do that for things that are easy. Like I don't have to say, hey, I promise I'm going to hang on the beach with you.
Right.
You're basically saying, hey, I might not like you next week, but I'm still in.
Mm-hmm.
I might get annoyed with you next week, but we're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And then you build so much together. I think the breaking point is like 7 years. Some people say if you can make it past 7, like the chances like go up tremendously. Mm-hmm. But I think it goes to that point of you build so much, you've got to find a way through it. You've got to choose to just make it work. What has that say? Cindy was your high school sweetheart.
Yeah.
How long have you been married?
35 years plus. 35, 36 this summer.
Give me your best marriage advice. What do you have? Help us young married.
Don't act like an only child. I mean, when it becomes about me is when it goes bad, and unfortunately that rears its ugly head quite often. Don't let Cindy watch this. So, you know, and I think modeling, like, even though, you know, my situation at home was a little bit weird, my parents were together.
Yeah.
And you know, my grandparents were together.
Yeah.
And then coming along, you know, we just hung around with your parents and, you know, Mike and Kate, and we had families around us and that had good marriages, and you're in a great situation because you've seen that. 100%. How do you have a good marriage if you don't know what that looks like? Or and yours is different than your parents and whatever else, but you've seen couples making it work.
Yeah.
And you've seen them go through things. That's one of the things that kills marriages is when there's a tragedy.
Yeah.
People don't know how to handle it together. And that's brought us together, Cindy and I, much closer together because we've had to circle the wagons and get through stuff. Yeah. And you know, so for better or for worse, I think, isn't that richer and poorer, whatever else?
Whatever. So,
you know, when you're saying that and you're young and you're up there, you don't know what that means. You're just excited to be there, but that's the nitty gritty of it.
Yeah.
I mean, think of the line, "Till death do us part." It becomes a little bit more meaningful when you have a diagnosis like I've had.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get to that point, but you just think about things a little bit differently.
Yeah. Yeah. You find a way to make it work.
Yeah. Right.
And I think, so like there's going to be, even some of our players will watch this, right? And they'll even ask questions around the stuff, former players, current players. Yeah. And I think there's this thought for that generation, even for our generation, that love is just this feeling. That's all it is. So like if I don't have that feeling, then I leave. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But when you get into marriage, you realize, gosh, that feeling comes and goes.
Sure.
That butterfly feeling, that like, my gosh, I'm so in love.
The TV stuff. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
But then it's like, no, we're still in it together. Mm-hmm. I've still got to commit to this. Who has helped you and Cindy through? Has it been just your friends? Has there been like, what has helped you guys through your marriage?
I mean, it wasn't like I put a lot of science into it. Like I didn't make like a positive and negative Benjamin Franklin kind of chart when I chose her. I mean, I mean, here's this girl that I thought was cute, and,
Yeah, no doubt.
and we started dating, and it just you talk about God putting you in position or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it had to be what it was.
Yeah.
I mean, because I didn't think through it.
Yeah.
But I think this is weird, but I mean, I found the right person, and it hasn't been hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not easy.
Correct.
But it just hasn't been that hard. We've never gone to counseling. I'm not against counseling by any means. We've never gone to counseling. We've been able to work through things.
Yeah.
Talk things out, get over, have a short memory in a lot of ways when it comes to spats along the way.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it does. Describe Cindy for me. I got my dad to describe my mom. How would you describe your wife if I had no idea who she was?
So Cindy is, in today's Cindy is extremely giving, extremely maternal.
Yeah.
Is grand maternal now that she's a grandmother.
Yeah.
Like just watching her love for our children and their children is unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, she's extremely smart, much smarter than me, and has become, we're doing some house renovations and flipping stuff, and she's all over that and managing that. And I've never, I don't know anything about our finances. Like we could be broke, we could be super rich. I don't know where we are. She does all that stuff. I don't know what bank we use. I don't know. I don't know what it costs. People are like, what's your mortgage? I don't have any idea what. So what she's great. Like I do what I do, and she does what she does.
Yeah. And
when those things intersect, that's usually where we have some challenges.
Yeah.
And like yesterday, I can't remember what it was, but something, and I maybe said something I shouldn't have said and whatever. But we got over that, and so it's a great partnership.
Yeah.
On the side of just living life and doing all those things, but she's very compassionate and so strong. Like how it's probably all this stuff. Like with me, my diagnoses, whatever. I really think it's been harder on them than it's been on me.
Yeah.
And even some of my friends. I mean, I just feel like they've taken it a lot tougher than I've taken it.
Yeah. I
don't know why that is, but because they care. You
know?
But anyway, so yeah, she's the light of my life. I mean, I don't deserve it, but yeah, we have fun together. You go out and one of the things I knew I didn't want to be is you go out to a restaurant, you see a couple that's our age or older, and they're sitting there and they're.
That will never be you.
Well, yeah, and it'll never be her either because, and I just make a point of it. I mean, we're not going to do that. We're going to talk, and we're going to enjoy, and we're going to figure it out the whole way. And she's great at that.
Yeah, gosh, it's awesome. Going back to the 4 families, and this kind of goes to your personality of just creating joy everywhere you go. I feel like you're funny, you're a great storyteller. Every time I'm around you and your guys and your friends, I am just hysterically laughing at all the stories y'all tell. But one of the things that you did to create like fun experience, I think you were the mastermind behind the Olympics at the beach. Were you the one that created the Olympics at the beach?
Well, it came from when Cindy's family was there one year, and I don't know if I was the mastermind then, but we sort of piggybacked on that idea when it was our families at the beach.
How many was it the 4 families that were
your people were there. The Rollies were there too.
Yes.
I don't remember.
Was it
Rodney? I don't know if Rodney was there. Mike got hurt. Remember that?
100% remember that. During the long jump.
Yeah. Josh was there.
So we had about 4 families.
Yeah.
And
because Shreve was there and August was there.
Correct.
I don't know if Hannah was there. Anyway,
We had 4 families
Yeah.
that we did this, and we'd go to the beach every year.
Yeah.
It's been like this week-long trip at the beach, which is so fun. We just
Yeah.
go out and duck, right? A coral, whatever it is.
at first, then we came to where we were in Corova at my dad's place.
And we had this draft night, and there was like these big ceremony, the Olympic ceremonies that we had. But we had 4 great American families that were competing. Do you remember whose team won?
I think our team won, Sam. I think by far it was a blowout.
When you get the 2 best athletes.
That's exactly right.
What were those trips like for?
Oh, it's so fun. I mean, those were, you just look back and just remember all the kids growing up and everybody having a good time, except usually Clayton, because Clayton was always at the stage where he was the youngest, but he wanted to compete so bad,
ultra competitive. Yes, yeah.
And that made him who he is today.
Correct.
Correct. Because once he got to be, when he wasn't a foot shorter than everybody, then he got to be a pretty good athlete.
Now he's one of the biggest we have.
Yeah, he got to be a pretty damn good athlete. But that's just all a part of doing it. But it was so much fun. We had the best time just being together, and that's part of the bonding that created the tight knit relationships that we've had and 100%. Continue to have today.
Yeah, when you go on like these retreats together, these vacations together, that's some of the best memories. Yeah. And again, the Olympics itself. Yeah, I've got to get Jacob Massey, Webster's LLC, his little small business digital partner. I've got to get him to put up some of the pictures.
We have a book, like the whole book at the beach. I think
you can see Mike in action hurting his knee in the jump.
Yeah, the long jump.
The long jump. Yeah. There was a long jump. There was like an egg toss relay thing.
Yeah, a swimming thing. You had to swim out to the buoy, run to the border of Virginia.
How long was that? That was like a mile run at least.
I would say probably about a mile. Yeah.
That was a tough deal. Cornhole,
and then the can must hit the ground.
Yeah,
like the Frisbee game.
Yeah,
that was good.
And again, it's just nice to know that the best team came out on top. Yeah. We have medals from that.
Yeah,
don't remember where.
Yeah, I still have mine in the trophy case.
Right. Yeah, hung up.
That was fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's so cool. All right, let's talk about your kids. Obviously, what we're going to go into later is something called the caffeinated corner. I'm going to reel off some questions for you. So I'm actually giving you a little leeway into that.
All right. Well, I better get some caffeine.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's actually sponsored by a local cop, not necessarily by Diet Coke. But we'll get into that in a little bit. Where I'm going to say, hey, one word to describe this person. One word to describe. And it'll be like one word answers.
Gotcha.
We're not going to do that for little Deane. I want you, the same way you described Cindy, I want you to tell me what Lil Deane was like, and then I'll tell you the greatest year of football for me, getting to play with him. But tell me what Lil Deane was like.
Gosh, he was feisty. There's a word that I used watching a kid play basketball in Sydney, but Deane has the same thing, moxie.
Yes.
He was Deane. He didn't like to go out of his comfort zone a lot. Like what he could do, he loved to do, and what he couldn't do, he didn't want to do because he didn't want to fail. He hated being bad at stuff.
Yeah,
like the yo-yo. Brandon said this at the funeral. Like one of the last memories I have of Deane was Christmas. He died on January 7th. So a couple weeks before we had Christmas at our house, and Cindy gave him yo-yos. And Clayton's hitting the yo-yo, and he's walking the dog, and he's doing. Deane can't even get it to go down and up. He can't the normal yo-yo thing. He can't even do that. And I'm like, what is the matter with you? I mean, this kid's scored, other than you, probably scored more touchdowns than anybody in the history of the high school.
100%.
He does everything, and he can't do the yo-yo. And it's funny, but what he did is he went home and he fooled with the yo-yo. I didn't know this.
Yeah.
And he died before I got to see him perfect it, but he worked on it every day to get the yo-yo. And sort of that's sort of what he was. Sometimes he would amaze me with how I don't know, I can't use the word dumb, but how sometimes he would just do some stuff that I'm like, what in the world are you thinking of? And then other times he would amaze me with how he got into something and just wanted to overcome it.
Yeah.
And he loved having fun. I mean, he had a free spirit, and just watching like him and Shreve grow up together and some of the crazy. I mean, I know about, not even the tip of the iceberg about a lot of their adventures, I'm sure, but just watching them and his group of friends, those guys were great. All the JMU guys, and I mean, it was just awesome. But he wanted me to be proud of him. Probably to a degree that was excessive. Like, I mean, I think I just know that that's how he was, really motivated by me giving him affirmation and things that he did. And that's from being his coach and obviously being dad, but being his coach as a young football player. And so I was proud of him. We can sort of segue into football. I mean, watching him play football was a true joy. And it was interesting. A couple kids that I coached, and I coached hundreds of kids coming up, but, he was one of two that just was a natural.
Yeah.
Greg Dortch is the other one who, when I played in the NFL.
Pretty good.
He was damn good. And Greg, if you're listening, sorry we never got the big trophy. We were really good at we always finished second place in the damn league. I always told us next year we're getting the big trophy. But Deane was great, and he loved it, man. He loved football more than anything in the world. And it's unfortunate that the coaching thing didn't work out. I just think he probably just, you got to be in the right place at the right time, and that didn't work out. And I think he was in a great place when he was working at Capitol and really got his legs under him. And again, it's unfortunate that it didn't continue. But he loved football. He loved playing with you. Loved the Hawks. He was loyal to a fault. Like if like this thing the hockey thing, like I put on Facebook, I'm like, that would have been Deane's jam. Like,
no doubt.
The game when they booed the American anthem or the national anthem, and then the fight started right away. That would have been the greatest sports moment.
And if he was there, he would have
thrown down, no question. Yeah, he's tough.
Yes,
he didn't take any grief, any crap off of anybody, and and he just didn't. I remember I'm sure you were on the team at that time when they played Verona, and the band or something was on the field, and I don't know what he did, but it just if you're going to disrespect him or his team, then you better be ready to go.
100%.
So
the way that you said that he just wanted you to be proud, growing up with all of these big brothers, my brother, Kirk, Deane, Shreve, all these big brothers, I just desperately wanted to show that I belonged.
Yeah.
That I was a part of that crew. Getting to play with Deane and Shreve, specifically my sophomore year, their senior year, we were a really freaking good football team.
Yeah.
Getting to play next to him, me playing quarterback, him playing running back, was the most fun I will ever have playing. It was the coolest time because his grit, his toughness, the way that he would talk crap to these other teams and just not back down from a soul.
Yeah.
It gives you this confidence, oh, I got Deane next to me, I can do whatever. We will beat whoever, whenever. The game that you're talking, there's several games where this happened, but the opposing team would be coming out, and if they turned at all, Deane was going to try to meet them there before Coach Just would stop it. And we're all kind of peeking at Deane, please don't get us a penalty before the game. And the other team's coming out, and he is at the numbers, then he's at the hash, and then he's midfield just jawing at them just because he felt that his team was being disrespected.
That's exactly right.
And he wasn't going to stand for it. I remember that. I remember we were a part of the teams that Hanover first beat Highland Springs and Verona. and beating Holland Springs on their field, everybody was shocked. We weren't shocked, but everybody else was shocked.
Yeah, especially them.
Correct. And we beat them 27-8. I accidentally threw a pick six.
It was a thorough ass whooping.
No doubt. And of course, Deane probably had 130 yards and he caught a touchdown that game. But I remember specifically the end of the game. Again, they're starting to try to start stuff with us. And I'm a sophomore quarterback. I'm kind of like, man, let's just kind of kneel the ball. Let's get out of here. He is still right up in their face. He just wouldn't back down from assault. Someone told me that you can find out more about someone in 5 minutes of competition than you can in 5 years of being around them. Deane's personality was on display, in my opinion, when you saw that guy compete. It's like, that's the toughness that I want to operate with, the toughness that I want to bring my sons up into. And I try to explain that to our football team because we do the number 7 every week. And when you wear this, understand who you're representing. Yeah. Understand the grit and the toughness. I just wish they could have been around it. But
there's a photo of him playing at JMU. One of my favorite pictures is his helmet is. Have you seen this one? Uh-uh. His helmet is gone, and there's 3 dudes, and he's still going. Yes. And that's the kind of guy he was. I mean, he would get after it. He's going to give you 110%, and that's you hear that. That's a phrase you hear all the time, but not many people do that. No. You did it,
yeah.
And I think he modeled that. Probably, I would say obviously Benjamin was first, and in his own right. I mean, Benjamin's college All-American football player, right? I mean, but it's harder to see that from a center than it is to see it from a running back or a quarterback. It's just more visible there. And I think he helped. I mean, that team that he was on, you guys' teams, it was great that they had you and great that they had Deane and some other, but really what made the Hawks teams then, to me, was the guys that were just team guys.
Yeah.
But watching what he did and being inspired like that, team guy got up and got it done. Mm-hmm. A dude that was just out there to play, maybe he's in the face of the opponent. And when it's the fourth quarter, he's not backing down. He's doubling down.
Yes.
And so you got all these guys that are just okay, never going to even think about playing college football. These guys are just out there, and now they're inspired, and then they're 11-0 or whatever y'all were your senior year, or hit Deane's senior year. And that's cool. And he inspired you. He inspired Clayton.
Yeah.
He inspired me.
Yeah.
He inspired his sister. By the way, I got to always bring this up when we talk about it. Who was the first Cheatham of that generation to have their picture on the cover of the sports section of the Richmond Times-Dispatch?
Wow.
Who was the first one?
Are you included? So it's just
not
Deane,
me.
Deane
No,
or Clayton?
no, it was never me.
Deane or Clayton? Is that?
Well, there's another one too.
Caroline, was she the first one?
She was the first one.
Wow. Fun fact. That's a great trip. Set me up on that. What was
Caroline.
She on there for? Not the multitude of things.
I think she might have been a freshman, and they were playing in the prep league. She was a collegiate, playing softball championship or semifinals or something, and she ripped a triple against St. Catherine's. And the thing says the headline is "Sweet Caroline's."
Gosh,
and
that's
here,
awesome.
But the funny part is she's coming through, but here, look at her eyes; they're totally closed. But I mean, the ball is meeting the bat in the perfect sweet spot location.
That's awesome.
But anyway, so she was the first one.
Gosh, unbelievable! I mean, she led the way.
Yeah, but and Deane led the way. That was the thing. He was the first, so he went off the cliff a lot of times and showed them. And he's the kind of guy that got caught too. If there was ever a jam and whatever, he was getting caught.
Yeah.
But that was I remember he had to leave JMU for a semester.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. And it was a bad situation. And a lot of people were like, well, hey, why don't you go up there and get a lawyer? And I'm like, you know what? I can see what he,
Yeah.
I don't think what he did is god awful, but you get busted drinking 3 times, you're out. And he did.
Yeah.
So he's out. He's going to learn that. And so, that was a lesson that Clayton needed to see, and Caroline needed to see, and you and maybe everybody else. They need you see. You got to be accountable for your actions.
Yeah.
And I think it was a good thing for him. And he came back with a vengeance and wound up having a great career at JMU, and all's good. But he missed a year. He missed a year of playing. I mean, imagine what he could have done that year if he would have been able to play ball.
Yeah.
But he got to work a jackhammer and dig a ditch for a.
You were never someone to void someone of the opportunity to be held accountable.
Yeah, well,
and because you care about them, like accountability is out of love for that person.
Right.
If you don't love that person, you let them try to skate on stuff. But my dad, similar way, I got the benefit of seeing my brother and sister maybe not always make the best decision. They were phenomenal role models, but you get to see that stuff, and you're like, man, I've got to make sure I'm in line. But going back to Deane leading the way, he was an inspiration. He was the first guy that showed me in our group that could go play Division I football.
Yeah.
And I'm watching, like, I'm praying that guy gets a scholarship, because I'm like, gosh, if he can't get a scholarship, I can't get a scholarship. Like, I can't go play.
And here's the crazy thing: both of you almost didn't.
I know. Like, we almost didn't get the opportunities. But then seeing how he became just such a dominant player, even in college, was like an awesome thing, and it just gives you this hope that you can go do it.
Yeah.
Couple more things I want to ask you about. So just brace yourself here for a little bit. Just hang in there with me. I know we're going long. But one of the things that always made me look up to you was how seriously you took working out and your physical health. When did that start for you? Were you like that growing up?
No.
Were you like that in college?
No.
No, SEAL team was a big thing for you. Like, when did that start for you, and how important was that for you?
So, like, when I was in high school, like, the whole weightlifting thing was just getting going.
Yeah.
I mean, we had weights. I chose to really not utilize them too often.
Yeah.
Got to college, and I guess after my freshman year, I was an offensive guard of all things, and we played Macon, your dad's alma mater. My freshman year, we were really good. They were good. And I was a second string guy. I played some, but I never started a game my freshman year. But I got to play. And great friend of mine and awesome competitor, a guy named Pat Kane, was the starter.
Yeah.
And Pat had an attitude. Pat and Little Deane were very similar in their attitude. Like, you didn't want to cross them because they were going to be committed to taking it to you.
Yeah.
Well, I think Pat might have cussed or something, and back then that was a big deal. And so Coach Fulton took Pat out of the game, and he had a cigarette. And Coach Fulton had a cigarette in his mouth. He goes, "Go in, Cheatham, get him." So I go out there, and, it's 3rd and 2, and they're running it right behind me.
Yeah. And
I hit this guy named Tom Shaw. As hard as I'm in perfect position, hit him, and it was like, a brick wall doesn't move forward. A brick wall stays the same way. It was like a moving brick wall that hit me, and now it's 4th and 3.
At that moment, you're like, I need to get stronger.
I'd never had that. Yeah. I'd never had that. Like, I maybe didn't ever win the block, but I'd never been beaten. Yeah. I mean, this was beaten, beaten. Yeah. And I'm like, holy smokes. And I think the next play I'm in to do the same thing and same result.
Gosh.
And I remember at that moment, I said, I gotta do something, because I can't live with that. Yeah. And then I didn't do it right away, because I actually got really fat between football and lacrosse. I went from like 230 pounds to 185 between football and lacrosse season. Wow. But my freshman year in lacrosse, I just worked out. I was like the man on the team. And I really realized, this could do something. And I was inspired, and I loved the coach, and I loved the teammates. And I'm like, I'm really going to work. And so I started running, I started lifting. I knew that I could be better. And then I had, another tragic story, but then, like, my junior year, knee goes out, and
Yeah.
that's pretty much it. But that was the beginning of it.
Yeah. And then in your adult life,
in my adult life, I remember when Cindy got pregnant with little Deane, I'm like, I don't want my kids to see me as an oaf.
Yeah.
I want them to see me as sort of athletic and whatever else. And
there's a certain level of respect that people naturally will have if you have yourself together.
Exactly right.
Like if you are even when you're selling real estate, like if you are just an oaf versus just like having.
I agree. And so, I guess it's all just about setting a good example. That's always meant something to me. And, when it became my turn to do that, I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
So I lifted, did different things. And I remember there was a little gym called Club Fit in Mechanicsville. And when I got to starting to work here, Mike and Todd and Rodney, and then we'd go play racquetball over there or whatever. And I wound up getting into it over there. And so I wound up getting a job teaching classes like step aerobics kind of stuff.
Leading a bunch of moms
and stuff. And then we did the Stairmaster thing. We did stuff on that. And the reason I wanted the job was because it was like an accountability thing. So I know if I don't have to go, maybe I wouldn't go, but if they're paying me to go, then you're damn straight I'm going to be there.
100%.
And if I'm the leader, then I'm going to be getting after it. I'm going to set the standard if I'm the leader. And so that was great. And then I got involved with SEAL Team PT. John McGuire, now Congressman John McGuire, was a big role model to me. I always sort of thought I missed the boat on not going to the military. I really feel like that would have been a good thing for me.
Yeah. God
bless everybody who does that and defends our honor and our country. And looking up to John as being a Navy SEAL, that's the tip of the spear. Those guys, and of course everybody's making a sacrifice, but these guys are that's the real deal.
You've always had a profound respect for them.
Unbelievable.
More than most people I know.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Because I've gotten to meet some of these people and I've heard some of the stories. I know what they do. But anyway, that just the training and watching how they have been pushed to the limit. And I've never been there. What I've done is nothing close to that.
Yeah.
But I've some of the stuff that John has showed me and pushed me to do, and it's been awesome. And you get off on that kind of stuff too. So you know all about that. You know what I'm talking about.
It was always a little bond that I feel like you and I would have, that. Like you wanted to work hard. Like you were the guy that I'd wake up with and work out on vacation, even at the river. I think you were the one pushing me originally to do push-ups and teach me how to do push-ups and all that stuff. Yeah. So,
and maybe that's a nutty thing, but I know that you get into it, and I really got into it.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah, and it's fun. It's a way. So, I love to compete. I love playing sports. I love the team. Maybe that's a fact of being an only child. You're on a team. Well, then now you got brothers.
Yeah,
and when that ended for me, I think that maybe the SEAL team thing was a part of that. It was being in a group and helping others and being inspired by others. That was good. So anyway, I like doing that. And then my knee eventually crapped out to where I just couldn't do much of that anymore. And that's unfortunate. So I still go to the gym, still exercise. Just this morning before this, I have a Peloton at home. I did that.
Yeah,
try to do something. I feel like if I can get some exercise in the morning, then I wake up. I've got the endorphins. I'm ahead of the rest of the world, and I like being there.
This may be a stretch, so you can tell me to shut up. But I don't know if you are able to operate in the victor mentality that we talked about before. If you are not practicing being a victor and shaping yourself physically, because it's not just physical. There's a mental training that goes into waking up early for SEAL team.
It is mental. It's more mental.
Yeah.
You got to put yourself in the position to do it. And for me, I just needed to get there, and then it was that's it.
You wake up and get there, you got it.
Yeah. I've never been done one rep on the bench press and left.
Right. Yeah.
That's not me. I mean, if I'm going all. I'm all in.
Yes.
But if I'm not in, I'm not in.
Yes.
So you got to be in position to do that. And then once you're there, then, I'm going to work hard enough to get the benefit. And whatever. I mean, I'm not Jim Jupiter,
Yeah.
but I've always felt like, I mean, I laughed at you before. I mean, yeah, other than cancer and bad knees, I'm great.
Yeah, you got everything going for
Yeah, like my blood pressure
you.
is freaking awesome.
Yeah,
I don't
no,
have cholesterol and
Yeah.
all that kind of crap. But
Yeah.
so the stuff that I've been able to control,
Yes.
I'm in pretty good shape with.
No doubt.
And that's important as you get older. I mean, to me, I can deal with the fact that somehow I've got some issues, but I don't want to say that I created those
Correct.
issues.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe I did by eating too much pizza or something along the way, but
Gosh, I'd be a tough spot though.
yeah, but that was fun.
All right. You can't say Mike. You can't say my dad.
Okay.
You can't say Rodney. None of the family friends.
Okay.
And you already said John McGuire. Who
Yeah.
have you looked up to the most in your life? Give me some role models. If you had to give me like top 3 role models, who would they be?
Sam Wilson. Sam Wilson was general. When Sam Wilson was 16, he heard Winston Churchill's famous speech on the radio about, you know, this was during the beginning, before the United States was involved in World War II. We'll fight them on the beaches. We'll never surrender.
Yeah.
And he was so inspired that he walked to the recruiting station, lied about his age, goes off, fights in the Pacific Theater, comes back like 37 years later, a 3-star general.
Wow.
I got to know him while I was working at Hampton-Sydney and while I was a student at Hampton-Sydney. And I mean, everything he said was like
Gold. Yeah.
Can I write that down? I mean,
Yeah.
and just, but the one thing he said that I think about every day is that he said every step of the way, from being I think he said it was originally a bugler in the Army, from being a bugler to a 3-star general, he said every step of the way, when I took a step up, I always tried to reach back down and bring somebody up with me.
Yeah.
And that was very inspiring to me. So General Sam was a big, just huge motivator in my life and a big impact on my life. There was a guy named Purcell Jones. I worked as like when all your dad and Mike and Ronnie, they were like pounding nails and working. I was a summer camp counselor.
Yeah, you are.
Which I think was a great job, and two of my best friends. Like when we go to Ireland with your parents here, one of the guys that I worked with, who we've stayed in touch with, Chuck Keeley and his wife Meryl, they're going with us.
Oh, that's awesome.
But Purcell Jones ran that camp, and I'm telling you, you talk about a staff of misfits. I mean, the counselors were. I mean, there's movies about crazy camp counselors or whatever. They could have. I mean, these were nut jobs.
Yeah.
And yet, you know, what I learned from him is to give people a second chance.
Yeah.
Is to love people enough to where if you give them a second chance, they're going to probably take advantage of that and do the right thing this time.
Yeah.
In so many instances, he just forgave people and gave them a second chance. And because you knew he cared so much, you altered your behavior to, at least in some areas, to try to make that guy proud. And there's just something about, you know, when the people in your life that are leaders, if you don't always want to do it for yourself, but if you want to do it, if I can make you want to do it for me, not make you, but if I can inspire you to want to do it for me, then we're moving forward. And then, because eventually you're going to want to do it for you, but sometimes you just don't have that.
Yeah.
You know? But I would, you know, I screwed up a few times at the summer camp, and he would, you know, he would teach me lessons, and there would be accountability. Yeah. But I knew that I didn't want to disappoint him.
Yeah. Gosh, it's good. It's so good. That concept is the essence of the gospel, right? You said he forgave other people, and then because of that forgiveness, you wanted to.
Right.
That alone corrected your behavior.
That's exactly
it was
right.
the love that you had for him, the appreciation.
Yeah.
It's so good.
And some people, and you know, that's just a quality that some people have.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing some of the decisions he made about some things that happened. I'm like, God, how could you just not tell that dude to just roll?
No doubt.
But he could see the good in people.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do.
Yeah.
When they're different people when you see all these different people today and people doing different things or whatever, but they're still humans and they're still if you could peel off the layers that maybe you don't like, maybe there's something there that you would like.
Yeah.
And it is valuable.
Yeah.
So,
gosh, that's good. All right. Let's
Captain
go in.
Purcell.
What's that?
Captain Purcell.
I love it.
Sunny Camp Moorhead.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to go into the caffeinated corner.
Let's do it.
Sponsored by a local cup. Okay. The first couple ones are going to be this or this. Okay. You get to choose. Okay, I'll present you two options. You tell me which one you prefer. Okay. And then it's going to be describe these people in one word. I'm going to give you a couple people in your life. Okay. Sound good? All right.
Yeah.
Ready to roll?
Yeah.
You had to choose TV show or movie. What would you do?
Movie.
Movie? Which movie?
My favorite movie? Old School.
Old School? Love it. Breakfast or dinner?
Depends on the day. I'm going to say breakfast today.
Breakfast? I love it. River or beach? I think it might be hard for you. River or beach?
Beach.
Beach. Okay. Saturday football or Friday Night Lights?
Friday Night Lights.
Friday Night Lights. Funniest kid?
Funniest kid. The kid that I coached in lacrosse. You probably remember this kid. I can't remember his first name. Crabtree.
Okay. Casey Crabtree, maybe.
The one that was always in trouble with the law and whatever else.
All right, now funniest kid of yours is what I was needing to say. Little Deane,
They're
Carolina.
just not that funny. Pass.
Pass. All right. Who's most like Cindy of Little Deane, Clayton, and Caroline? Caroline. Describe Caroline in one word.
Smart.
Clayton in one word.
Inspired.
We've gone through Little Deane, but if you had one word, what would you describe Little Deane as?
I think the word I used before, moxie.
Moxie.
Yeah.
I love it. Describe Benjamin in one word. Another one of your adopted sons, basically.
Together.
Together. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, Mike in one word.
One word. I've got the vision of what that is. I'm trying to get a word to describe it. Uninhibited.
Uninhibited. I love that. My dad in one word.
I'd have to use together, sort it out. That's more than one word, but yeah. On top of it.
On top of it. All right, Rodney in one word.
Rodney in one word. Rodney's a lot of different things. A friend.
Friend.
I love it. Just at all times.
I love it. I love it. All right, these can be longer answers.
Okay.
This one. You've made it out of the caffeinated corner. Congrats. I know that was tough. I know those are reeled off answers there.
Yeah.
All right. Deeper questions. All right. If you could ask your dad one question right now, what would you ask him? You're going to have a sit down conversation with him. What would you ask your dad?
How's little Deane doing?
Okay. This might be a similar one.
Well, I have this vision of like, and I guess Mike said this when Deane died. He said I can see when Deane died and he's coming to heaven. He could see my dad going to God and Jesus and saying, "All right, now you got him here. Give him the ball." Because no one was a bigger fan of little Deane. And I mean, he just felt like Deane. Yeah. I mean, if you just gave Deane the ball every play, then we'd win. And maybe that would have been the case. Yeah. But and we did. Yeah. And he got the ball a lot. But that was pretty fun.
Yeah.
So I had this vision of like my grandfather and my dad and little Deane.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so cool. All right, this might be a similar answer. If you could ask Jesus, you're sitting down with Jesus, you're having this conversation with him. You have one question for him. What are you asking him?
I guess at that point, then that's where the why could come out.
Yeah.
Because he knows.
Yeah.
And I think if we go back to the one, I could just ask one word because he would know what I mean by that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Because at some point I would like to understand.
Yeah, you want closure on it eventually. Yeah. Well, Deane, you are again one of the biggest inspirations in my life to a lot of people.
Tears today for me. Sorry about that.
It's all good. It's perfect. It's great.
Yeah.
I will.
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah. I want people. The reason why I asked you to be on here is because I want people to know the kind of man that you are and to get inspiration from it. There's plenty, like I said, players that I coach, players that I have coached, friends of mine that might not know you personally. And you are a model for people that can gain inspiration. And on top of that, there's people that have gone through a lot of crappy stuff in their life that I'm around and fortunate to be around and be in their lives. Yeah. And they would gain inspiration from a man like you. So you're like, if there's a word to describe you in the midst of all of this, it's stability. Like, and I don't even know, of all the things that you are, you still find a way to stand strong and stay stable. And you give everybody else hope. So I love you.
Good.
Thank you, man. Thank you a ton for all this.
All right. This was fun.
All right. Appreciate it. Appreciate you guys. And stay tuned for the next one. Talk to you later.